They came out with a weekly list of infractions, injuries, and safety violations, and we never once were on any of those lists.
Man, listen.
Let's get after it and make today a win.
Rock thunder so hard yesterday, you can still hear it rolling today.
My wins for yesterday were
big win for us yesterday was.
So my win yesterday was.
These things are like sweet.
Let's go.
Isaiah, thank you so much for coming on, man. I am so excited to have you on. I think the biggest thing for me today is your story and your background is so authentic, and I think it's real, and I think people need to hear your story. You've come a long way. You've leaps and bounds, man, since I first met you, and you have grown and went through so many different positions. I would like you to start where we met. You were so quiet, you were in your zone, and I didn't know what to think. And I don't think that you were one of our first picks to hire, but over the duration of us working side by side with you and seeing how in tune you were with growing and changing and wanting to be a better person. And I think that I would love to hear your story from that point.
Well, I had a couple choices of vocational things to do at New Freedom. One of them was roofing. I thought about it. Roofing in Phoenix is not going to cut it. Painting was one. And it's funny because the whole painting thing, it's funny because I feel like everything happens for a reason. I was in the cafeteria one day, ran into someone I know, and he was one of the contractors. Came up, gave me a hug, and he said, "Hey, take the painting class. And once you get through the class, I'll hire you." So that's what, it was a sign from there. So that's what I did.
It's almost like it was meant to be.
Yeah. Took the painting class. I was quiet for various reasons. I think most of it was focus. I had it in my mind that nothing at that program was going to distract me. I just wanted to do everything I was supposed to do. I think I'm kind of built like that anyway. When there's rules to follow, I do it. But it was just more not being distracted, and I just wanted to get my life back on track. And that was very important to me. So when I took the painting class, just like all the other classes I was taking there, and all the things I had to do at this program to get my stuff together, I was on top of it. I didn't waste time. Showed up to every class on time, did whatever was required of me. So the painting class made sense to me, and I just kind of stayed to myself because I really didn't relate to a lot of people there, because I would hear a lot of conversations that didn't make sense, and it didn't line up with my thought process. And I think at that point in my life, I was trying to change my way of thinking and grow as a person. And when I took the class, you're right, I wasn't one of the 5 people that were chosen to work for PHP. But I did want to work for PHP, but I knew that at some point, one of the contractors were going to hire me. I was determined to paint regardless. So I knew it would work out. And you guys asked me to stay late after class one day. And that's when you guys presented the opportunity. And I didn't really know that you guys were paying that much attention. But obviously you were. You guys asked me to be a part of the team, and I accepted at that point.
And at that point, you graduated, you started with us, and you actually started in the field painting. And What was that experience like for you, being out in the field at the beginning?
Well, I didn't really know much about painting other than, doing the weekend classes, the hands-on part of it. So, I was a little nervous about going out in the field, but me being a person, I feel like in life, just in my life in general, whatever I put my mind to, I'm gonna figure it out. Um, Went out into the field, uh, in the dead summer. It was hot. And I just listened to direction. And at the time, Bill was with us.
Mhm.
And that's who I learned from at New Freedom. So I watched him in certain situations, certain things he taught me, and I did a lot of paying attention and listening. And I did exactly what I was told, and went on a few projects, and I didn't know how well I was doing, but I didn't know if I was fast enough. I didn't know if my quality was there, but I just got up every day. And in the beginning, I was working with a couple different people.
Mhm.
But what I did was just try to learn from them. So, and I think they kind of fast tracked me very quickly. I think it's because I was learning quick, but I started spraying soon, brushing and rolling. And then from there, it was just job after job after job.
I think for me personally, something that I've seen in you, um, it was like you always put your head down and you just focused. You were laser focused on everything that you did, and you were always so eager to learn. And the one thing that I realized through all these years in business is, before you would always see people coming up in the paint industry and they wouldn't touch a sprayer for a year, you know? But I realized that when you see true potential, you take advantage of that and you push them and help guide them to get to where they want to be. And I had seen so much potential in you, and I think your first promotion was safety coordinator, wasn't it?
No,
Was it?
my first promotion was, to me, it was a promotion because I got put into a work.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
And what that did was allowed me to, in essence, be a lead,
Mhm.
because at that point, I was picking a guy up and going to a job working someone else on my own at that point. As before, I was being picked up working with someone else, kind of being trained.
Mentored.
But once I went into the truck, I would go off on jobs with another guy. And I don't even feel like I was ready to be training someone else. But like I said, I was being fast tracked.
Mhm.
At the time, I really didn't understand the mechanics of why these things were happening that fast. But I uh I just rolled with it. Um because at that point I think I had a couple jobs under my belt. It was getting easier. I was figuring things out, but at that point I still had so much more to learn. And then here I am with another guy, and he is fresh. He's kind of new to painting, but he's trusting me and he's listening to everything that I'm telling him. And in my mind, I was pretty confident that I was giving him the right information. But at the same time, I was getting to know that person, and we were working side by side. And now that I think about it, I was actually training him.
Right.
So that person has a lot of what I gave him to this day inside of him. Just like I learned from the two guys that I was put with. but putting my head down, that you're right. Me as a person, I'm one of those people who I'm driven off knowledge, and I need to be mentally stimulated. So for me, painting was all of the above. So it was learning, not just hands on, but there's a lot that entails painting. So um, and then I like it. I loved it. Um,
It's almost therapeutic.
yeah, I would just put my earbud in and just get in the zone and paint. And then before I know it, it was time to go home, and it would seem like I was only at work for an hour. But when I would look back, it's like, wow, we just painted all day. So yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed every part of it.
And I think that's one thing that really sets you apart from a lot of other people, because when you put your head down and you really stay laser focused on your growth within the business or your growth within life, you're dodging all the distractions. You know what I mean? And nothing is getting in your way. You're not letting it, because you want to grow. You want to become a better individual. You want to become a better employee. You want to move up in positions. And at what point did we move you up in position after this?
Once I was in a truck and I was on a few jobs, an opportunity came. We got a contract with TSMC.
The biggest commercial job site in the United States.
Yes. I was told I was going there initially to paint some tanks. Didn't really know much about the job, but when I got there, realized that it was something very serious. A huge job like that, that's where the safety coordinator position came,
Mm-hmm.
because obviously in order to be on that job, our company needed a safety coordinator, one safety coordinator for every 25 employees. And that's the position that you guys put me in.
And you're right, it did start with the tanks. I'll never forget that. 2 forklifts, we had to pick them up on each end to stand them, and you guys were up there for quite some time. And then that's when, after the tanks is when you guys started going inside of the fab, correct?
Right. Once we left the laydown yard and went into the fab, that's when it got real.
Real serious.
That's when I had to go to safety meetings. That's when I had to do JHAs. That's when I learned about SDSs and PDSs. That's when the whole safety part of it came into play. So that's when I met the whole MIC safety team. Just going to those meetings, and it was overwhelming at first because it was just so much to do. And not only was I having to do meetings and paperwork, but I had to coordinate the work on a daily basis. Logistics, getting things in the building, and also following every safety protocol. And at first, I feel like it was a learning curve, but just like anything else that comes my way, it gets easier over time once you start figuring things out. But yeah, one of the best experiences of my life in a work environment. TSMC shaped who I am today. And I'm glad I went there. I learned a whole lot. And the biggest challenge, though, of being there was being responsible for the guys that I had down in that basement, because it was dangerous, and it was all on me. So just making sure those guys were safe and that we got the work done safely. And not only that, we got no safety violations. I don't think we had one incident at that job. A clean record the whole time. I think I was there for 9 months.
I think there was a point in time, and correct me if I'm wrong, MIC used us as their safety poster board.
They did. They would always compare PHP or other companies to us, and they would always say, well, Isaiah has his paperwork done. Why can't you guys do it? So not just paperwork, but just everything. They came out with a weekly list of infractions, injuries, and safety violations, and we never once were on any of those lists. But yeah, they did use us as an example because I just ran a tight ship. And that's when I got my first taste of managing. I really didn't realize what was going on, but later on down the line, I kind of figured out what you guys were doing to me.
I'll never forget. We were sitting there talking, and you go, "I see you. I see what you're doing. You're setting me up
For success."
Exactly.
So I didn't realize at the time you guys were grooming me for something else. I just didn't know what that something else was.
And after TSMC, you had a very, very, very big project and a well-rounded amount of experience within the construction industry and safety and management, because I think it became a point where you were supervising. I think you had, at one time, you maybe had, 10 people down there with you?
Yeah.
On a day-to-day
8 or 9 people.
Right. So not only were you supervising the job down there, you were going to safety meetings. You were basically project managing because you were filing all your paperwork and uploading all your JHAs, which are job hazard analysis forms, on a day-to-day basis. I think you did very, very well. I seen, before you went down there and before I had asked you to take on this position, I had seen so much drive in you, you know what I mean? And I seen it. And out of anybody in the company, I knew that you were the only person that can take on that challenge. Seeing how successful you were throughout that project, and I don't know when it was, but when you finished that project, I think we moved you into a superintendent position, right?
Yeah.
And that's when you went to Omni.
Well, I wasn't a superintendent just yet, but I was.
Mm-hmm.
You sit, the job kind of went left.
Well, you didn't have the superintendent title, but I was driving you in that direction.
Hence, like I said, the light bulb went off that time. I realized then, because you sent me there to get this job back on track. And I was there, and, I'm not going to sit around. I'm going to help these guys. I'm carrying buckets. I'm going to do exactly what they do because I wanted to lead by example. If you're someone's boss, like, you never ask them to do something you wouldn't do yourself. And I'm just not built like that anyway. So I did exactly what they were doing, and that was painting. And if we're going to shake this job back, we're going to do it together. And it came a point where I was told to stop painting. I didn't understand why. They said, no, you need to stop and just supervise. And I really felt some type of way about that. But of course, me being me, I followed that direction because obviously there was a reason for that. And then from there, I think it came a point where that job finally was coming to an end. And then at that point, that's when the superintendent job was presented. And once that was presented, I went into that role, and it was a lot.
And now to kind of fast track, okay? I know there's a lot of in between, and you are now our project manager for the company, and you manage multiple projects and employees. I would like to talk about, what is your win right now?
My win is becoming a project manager. And the reason I say that is because there was a time when I was a superintendent that I walked into the previous project manager's office, and I would listen to phone calls. I pay attention to everything. I pay attention to what's being done around me, all of it. So I would watch him, and in my mind, I was like, what he does is mind-boggling, because in my head, I thought it's a lot, one person to be dealing with. But as I sat there and watched him one day, I told myself right then and there, I'm going to be a project manager. That's the win. Manifesting that, believing in myself, and making that happen. And that's exactly what I did. And I think it started with being a superintendent, because the superintendent position set me up for managing multiple projects. Because when I became a superintendent, there was times I had 8 jobs, and I would have to bounce back and forth and make sure that these jobs were being ran right, finding mistakes, making sure the guys have what they need. The evolution of just all the steps led me to this project manager position. I wouldn't be the project manager that I am had I skipped any steps, because becoming a superintendent was the setup for the project manager. So now being a project manager, it's even more challenging than being a superintendent. But it's more mental, and it's the challenge that I guess I was searching for the whole time. Like I said, the mental stimulation, the learning. I thrive off of that.
That is so cool to hear, man. And Isaiah, I know there's so much more to your story that I really want to get out, and I would love to have you back on and dig a little bit deeper into this, because I think a lot of people need to hear this. And thank you so much for coming on. And I look forward to talking with you again.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and comment. We'll see you on the next one.
My wins for yesterday was I was able to get a sample over to Sherwin-Williams, and they got it color matched within 5 minutes of me being there. Got it done. Got it back over today.
My wins for yesterday was getting all the trim on this lovely house finish, all the way around it, top to bottom. That was a good achievement. I thought it was gonna take me 2 days, but it took us 1 day.
Byaw, byaw, byaw.